Welcome in to Top of the Perch. As always, I'm your host, Nick Burt. Let's get straight into it. Tottenham 0. Woolwich Arsenal 1. I don't even really feel like doing a full game recap because truly it's been more of the same that we've seen basically all this season so far. Controlled possession, passes, all that fun stuff, all those, meaningless stats in the end, controlling all of that. Then once you get into the attacking third, it's whoop, 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 that turnover. Or whoop, whoop, that shot is 50 yards over the bar. Whoop, 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 and, falling down, and it's just going the other way on the counterattack. We've seen this so many times already this season. We're 4 games into the season, and it just, it's unbelievable just how much of an attacking threat this team isn't. They have no killer instinct whatsoever. I mean, jeez. You look back at the game to start the season at Leicester. You had bountiful opportunities, especially in the first half. You end up going in front, but then you, of course, concede, midway through the second half, and you just were completely outclassed in the second half to a team that just recently got promoted. Of course, Leicester, different situation than some of the other promoted teams in recent history, but still. You look at the Newcastle game. You controlled possession throughout. You didn't even get a point from that. And then you have a home North London derby, and you don't even get a goal? Absolutely unbelievable. That is just absolutely shameless. You got to look at it from varying lenses. Managerial. Postecoglou, I don't know what to say because I truly still want to back him. I want him to be successful. But he chooses not to adapt to the game. He is just very hardcore strict. I am playing my style. That's it. I'm not adapting if things aren't going well. Cool. Whatever. But at some point, you gotta realize that doing what you're doing isn't working. I mean, we'll get into the stats of it, but Leicester dominated possessions, more passes, came out with a draw. You look at Everton, dominated possession, controlled passes, dominated defensively. You at least got a win from that, but Everton is woeful. Like, they are historically bad, possibly. You look at Newcastle. You are at St. James Park, a house of horrors. Dominated possession, dominated passing. You know what you did? You got 0 points out of it because you conceded too many times in this game off of just awful decision-making. You come into this game off an international break in what is the biggest game of the season for this club, the biggest game of the season at our place. You dominate possession, you control passes, and you still come out with 0 points because you concede off a corner kick once again, and yet you still choose to say, there's nothing wrong with our set-piece defending. There is 100% something wrong with our set-piece defending. It happens almost every single game now. And as that clock was ticking down, and it was still 0-0, and we're starting to get into, second half, and then it's, the 50th minute, and now we're in the 60th minute, and it's like, they're going to get a corner, and they're going to score off of it, and this game's going to end 1-0. Look what happened. It ends up 1-0, and we have nothing to show for it. Now, we look at the players. They look incompetent out there, honestly. They really do. I truly I don't know what to say. The attacking third was nowhere to be seen today whatsoever. The midfield is running out there like headless chickens. The back line, I mean, you got some pieces there that were at least solid-minded, but then you got other ones that are just out on Mars. Just dreadful. And then somewhat to go back to managerial, with players tie-in, the substitutions today, dreadful. Dreadful substitutions. We'll get into that later. And then, of course, you got to look at, the management side of things. Not the manager, but, the higher-ups, the boards, all that. Do they even care? Or do they just care about the cash flow that was coming in from the stadium? And you're not going to like the answer, but it's probably, they like the money coming in, but don't really care about the product on the field. And it's 100% true. Let's be honest here. We brought in 4 players, I believe, this summer. Only one of them, as of now, seems to be first-team quality. Bergvall, MIA in this game, just sitting on the bench. Same with Gray. No idea whatsoever why we signed them, and they're not even getting playing time right now. I know we got more cup competitions coming up quite soon, and that's probably when they're going to be getting play time. But if you're not even going to give them chances in the first team, I mean, then why didn't we go out and get somebody that's a proven first-team player that can upgrade on this? I mean, we can't just sit back and say, meh, what we got is good enough, This is basically a lot of the team that, went from 8th to 5th last year, even though in the second half of the season they just completely collapsed and only got into 5th place by, just the skin of it. I mean, you can't, in this business, in this sport, you can't settle for mediocrity. You have to constantly evolve. If that means, hey, we got to maybe move on from some of our better players to get even better players, sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you have to do that. This team just likes to sit back and say, hey, we got these great players right now. We're not going to mess with it. And then we'll sell them past their use-by date. And that will be that. Or we're going to bring in somebody so young that we're not even going to get playing time for them. And then they languish on the bench. And then their development worsens because they aren't playing. And then they don't turn out to be worth what we paid for them. I don't know. I feel like with it being this game singularly, I think it was somewhat of a breaking point for a lot of people. That's kind of why, I mean, if this was, who knows, if this was United or City, am I truly like this down deep into it? I don't know. It might be this game. The fact that we lost 3 straight at home, something that hasn't been done since the 1980s. And then, just a little bit back on the managerial stuff now. The audacity for Postecoglou to say, we got to treat this game like it's any other game. This game is not any other game for the fan base. I mean, obviously, I don't have the accent. I did not grow up in London. But if you just read the stories online, this game means so much because of the people around it, the supporters. With both teams being so close together, you grow up with, kids around you that are, the opposite side of you, and it just becomes, a bigger rivalry going up and up. And then you get to this game and it's like the boiling point, and then you have bragging rights over whoever that other person is for however long it is until that next match. This is more than a game for most of this fan base. And for the man, I took it a little bit out of context. He was saying, like, we got to play all these games like it's a game like Arsenal, blah, blah, blah. We can't play different against Ipswich than we do against, like, City or United or obviously Woolwich Arsenal. But this game means a lot more than any of those other games. And just to put it in that context, I think rubbed a few people the wrong way. Now, another thing personally rubbed me the wrong way. I don't really know about the rest of the fan base. Post-game press conference, I forgot the question, but I think it was like something about being worried about development, only 4 points through 4 games, something along those lines. And he reiterated the comments he made in the preseason that wherever he goes, he wins a trophy in the second season. Oh, that's fine and dandy. We're on 4 points right now through 4 games, and it's looked like a disaster. At the end of the season, that may look like the greatest quote of all time, the coldest quote. Like, hey, we were in the doldrums at a point, and I still said we're going to win, and we did. Or you're going to look like the biggest clown in Premier League history when we finish in, like, 7th place. We're eliminated in the Carabao Cup in the 3rd or 4th round. We're eliminated in the 3rd or 4th round of, the FA Cup. And then, who knows, maybe we lost in the playoff round in the Europa League. Who knows? I don't know. But you're treading a really thin line there. I think it's the fact that it was this game led to a breaking point for so many people. And also the fact, I believe he has now managed 7 London derbies. He has 0 wins. I believe it was 2 draws and 5 losses, something along those lines. There's no point in, that's terrible. It's absolutely awful. That is the antithesis of the run form you want to see. So, I don't really know. I don't even really want to get into the stats. You can see Tottenham just dominated this game. 64% possession, 15 total shots compared to, half of that with 7. Shots on target, Tottenham still had more, even though it felt like all those shots on target were just atrocious shots, period. Expected goals, of course, Arsenal, take advantage in that one. Passes, Tottenham dominate, of course. Fouls, the ref today absolutely is atrocious. His head was on Mars. I think it was 7 total yellow cards in the first half, which broke a Premier League record. And then I think somebody told him to calm down a little bit in the second half because it did die down a little. But whatever. Let's get into the player ratings. Son, kind of an awful day today. Didn't see much from him. He earns a 6.4. Solanke, he was ghost out there. He may have got a few touches on the ball. None of them worth anything. He earns a 5.7. Johnson, he's getting a lot of abuse on the internet. I saw that he deactivated his social media. Given that, I do not condone that at all. I think that's kind of one of the worst sides of our fan base is that we kind of do that a lot. And there's just no room for that. But he didn't have a good day today. He earns a 5.7. I still very much question the price we paid for him, which I think is fair, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Madison, this whole midfield, like I said earlier, they looked like chickens with their heads cut off, just running around out there doing absolutely nothing. So that's kind of why it's a similar score here. Madison, Bentancur, and Kulusevski. The back line, kind of the only redeeming part of this game. And I now notice, of course, on the graphic that I did not transfer over the Man of the Match award, which was going to Mickey Van de Ven. Over, of course, it says Pop Sar, but we'll get to that. Udogie, I mean, he was kind of getting dominated on the wing, honestly. But he was still one of the better players out there today. He earns a 7-1. Same with Van de Ven. He earns a 7-1. The yellow card, it was questionable, but probably leans more towards the yellow. Romero is the reason why it's 1-0 and not 0-0. Just an absolute disaster of a day from him. And Pedro Porro, he earns a 7.3. It's just nothing special came from him. Vicario, I also somewhat put that goal on him too. He was too busy pushing a Woolwich Arsenal defender out of the way than, jumping up to try to save the ball. Whatever. It is what it is. Sar, Odebert, and Werner really didn't show much off the bench. So that is for the similar scores there. Postecoglou earns 6. I kind of went into a lot of detail already, kind of why that score ended up the way that it is. So Tottenham, of course, 4 points from 4 games so far. We're starting 9 years. Now, of course, if you go back 9 years, it was Mauricio Pochettino's second year at the helm. And what happened? Tottenham ended up in a title race at the end of the season. That's not happening this year. I very much bet that it does not happen, but who knows, crazier things have happened. Well, a cup chase starts on Wednesday. Tottenham traveled to Coventry to face off against Coventry City. Of course, here on the Nick Burt Sports Network, we will be here to recap, hopefully a victory, but knowing Tottenham, it will probably be a loss. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Top of the Perch. If you just stumbled across Top of the Perch and you enjoyed it, or you just liked seeing the misery, there's going to be a lot more coming of it this year, I can guarantee you. So click like, click subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. If you love college football, check out the Merrifield Sportsbook show. Every Friday morning it comes out. Just a preview of the week's action, and we'll get some picks mixed in there. So make sure you tune into that too if you subscribe to the channel. So thank you so much for watching. We will see you back on Wednesday evening to recap the Carabao Cup third round match between Tottenham and Coventry City.